U.S. deploys strategic B-52 bombers for joint exercises. 2. Immediately after China and Russia completed a joint patrol and exercise. 3. This information has attracted attention from public opinion. 4. Partly because it occurred too close to a series of sets. 5. And partly because it touches on the underlying. 6. Could this action become the spark for a new spiral of tension? 7. Notably, many people are not only focusing on the exercises. 8. But also on the timing of its execution. 9. As China and Russia just concluded a large-scale strategy. 10. The U.S. immediately coordinated with Japan in a power display exercise. 11. The close timing has led many observers to question. 12. Whether this is a move intended as a response. 13. Of course, Washington always emphasizes that such training exercises are. 14. But in the current context of strategic competition, where nations cost. 15. It is difficult to expect all parties to view this as a normal act. 16. The appearance of B-52s in the region is. 17. But each time this iconic aircraft flies over. 18. It always generates certain political. 19. We have seen the U.S. deploy B-52s near the Korean Peninsula when tensions with Pyongyang. 20. Or use B-52s as a deterrent signal during many sensitive moments in the Asia. 21. Thus, the public has reason to believe its appearance is never coincidental. 22. It is not just a military asset, but. 23. And as many experts know, what matters is not what Washington wants is. 24. But how Beijing and Moscow. 25. In the context of increasingly close military. 26. Any responsive moves by the U.S. and Japan is. 27. The latest patrol lasted for hours near Japan's air defense. 28. With the participation of bomber, early warning, and. 29. Tokyo was forced to scramble fighters for. 30. Some analysts believe China and Russia are trying to set. 31. They can coordinate in critical strategics. 32. Regardless of ongoing debates about their act. 33. But another view suggests they are also testing. 34. A country undergoing significant military. 35. In Tokyo's eyes, pressure from both sides. 36. On one side, close-range activity. 37. And on the other, expectations from the UN. 38. That Japan will play a stronger role. 39. Japan today is no longer the cautious Japan. 40. Changes in security strategy. 41. And views on collective defense indicate Japan's desire. 42. Therefore, many in Japan see the U.S. deployment of B-50s. 43. And a reminder that Tokyo is increasingly drawn into the orbit of great power. 44. Nevertheless, the risk of escalating tension remains a 45. Some public opinion believes the risk of a large-scale war in the region is still very low. 46. Because the US, China, and Russia all understand that such a 47. And cause a net. 48. But looking at recent close encounters between aircraft and ships. 49. One can understand why many are. 50. When fighter jets fly within just a. When radar is accused of sharing information with. Or when each side interprets the other's actions in a disadvantageous light. The risk of miscalculation is undeniable. One of the factors making the region prone to tension is that each country brings its own concerns, its own goals, and its own limitations. The US wants to maintain military superiority and the order it has led for decades. China wants to expand its sphere of influence and assert its status as a rising power. Russia wants to prove it still has a significant voice in the Asia-Pacific strategic structure, especially amid Western isolation in Europe. Japan wants to ensure security, maintain sovereignty, and strengthen self-defense capabilities. When these goals intersect and clash, any move, however small, can be interpreted negatively. It is no coincidence that some experts call the current period a strategic transition. This is a time when major powers are adjusting strategies, testing different levels of deterrence, and seeking the most advantageous position in a rapidly changing power structure. In this context, no action is entirely harmless or random. The appearance of B-52s is not just a military issue, but also a piece in a broader political picture, where countries are probing each other step by step. Many questions arise. Is the US trying to set a strong warning that it still holds strategic superiority in East Asia? Are China and Russia testing Japan's tolerance limits, probing US responsiveness, or simply demonstrating coordination capabilities? Can Japan maintain a balance between strengthening defense and avoiding being seen as the side that triggers tension? These questions remain unanswered clearly, but their constant asking shows the region is in a state of high alert. Looking back at the whole incident, the question of whether war can escalate arises not because of the exercise itself, but because of the shared sense of insecurity enveloping it. East Asia is all too familiar with deterrence displays, patrols, and tactical maneuvers. But when they become denser, closer, and more symbolic, the risk of misinterpretation increases significantly. What analysts worry about is not war breaking out tomorrow, but a series of small mistakes accumulating into a major incident, as history has shown. In a region with too many unresolved issues, from territorial disputes, influence competition to historical wounds, the appearance of B-52s, Russian bombers or warships from any side, is not just tactical in meaning, but also symbolic, and symbolism sometimes complicates things more than reality. East Asia understands too well the cost of the strategic, so every new development is scrutinized through a cautious lens. It is precisely in this context that the public's question of whether the situation could escalate becomes a question that accurately reflects the answer is not simple, but clearly, as long as countries continue to read each other's signals with suspicion rather than dialogue,
even military training moves can become the focus of endless speculation.
While many views see the U.S. deploying B-52s for exercises with Japan as a routine step to counter activities by China and Russia, there are also cautious perspectives. A series of consecutive events is making the security environment in East Asia more tense than usual. When too many military forces operate close to each other, the risk from unforeseen situations is always present. What worries observers is not the grand strategic plans, but the possibility that just a small incident could trigger a chain reaction. Some analyses suggest that Washington's deployment of B-52s at this time is not only aimed at sending a signal to China and Russia, but also at its own allies in the region. This move reminds that the U.S. still maintains oversight of the Asia-Pacific and is ready to be present when necessary. However, this interpretation creates two extremes. Some see it as a move to consolidate work, while others see signs that Washington is forced to increase military activities to protect its once solid. Yet, when one side tries to reassure allies by increasing military presence,
the other side may view it as an increase in pressure.
China sees U.S. activities near its airspace and waters as a challenge to its strategic space. Russia, while focused on Europe, still wants to demonstrate its ability to coordinate with China in the Asia-Pacific. As China and Russia continue patrols, the cycle of reciprocal reactions among parties intensifies,
where every action is easily interpreted as an escalation step.
The situation becomes more complicated as developments do not only revolve around the U.S. South Korea must respond to flights near its peace. Taiwan continues to face military pressure. The ASEAN countries are cautiously monitoring because any major upheaval in Northeast Asia could spill over into the South China Sea. This leads many to question whether the parties truly understand each other's tolerance limits, or are being drawn into a cycle of competition that is difficult to stop. For Japan, changes in security policy make the appearance of B-52s a double-edged sword. Some public opinion sees it as a guarantee, but others worry Japan can be dragged deeper into superpower competition. China consistently asserts that its activities are routine, showing different interpretations of the same event, which has long been the seat of many conflicts. Although most experts still believe the risk of full-scale war in East Asia is low, the cumulative risk from dense military activities cannot be taken lightly. When diplomacy is narrow, or the distance between forces, even a small mistake can be amplified into a crisis. Subscribe to the DMEO channel so you don't miss exciting videos.
Like the journey? Subscribe and join the next expedition.